Welcome to my idiot-proof Supreme Isthmus Navy guide for Beyond All Reason. And this is my first video. I am roguelike and I really want to help players with strategies to try and elevate everyone's play, or to at least compete and not get yelled at in the lobbies. And so you can really enjoy yourself and feel like, hey, even if you lose, you've done everything possible with very few mistakes. And that is really the goal of these guides, is to give a sort of firm footing to how this game needs to be played. So I'm not necessarily going to show all the meta strategies, but I have picked up a couple of things with this Navy position. If we look over here, particularly on these canyons, and for its mirror matchup over here as well in the north, we want to try and build our shipyard around here between these two islands. I mean, theoretically you could put it here too, but it's just a bit closer to the commander, and I've had a bit of success with it here, so why not put it here? And the reason why is we can fortify these islands a little bit, and the idea is to try and protect it as much as possible and turtle up, because as you're aware with Navy, or you might not be, but it's all about trying to claim wreck fields, and you don't really want to be handing the enemy any wrecks you could have saved, basically. So in this game, it's a really noobish attempt. I'm up against a very difficult player called Neon Cat. Even though he's only 3 chevrons, he's done this before. You can see he's gone on some builder or some stratagem in which it's very refined and leads to success more often than not, I would think, for Neon Cat. And that's why we're looking at a reasonable sort of OS for his player. So he's number 4, whereas I'm like number 6 in my lobby, so a bit lower OS than him or her. So we can see we're finally going for our shipyard, and that shipyard's been well underway. But because we're charging it with a commander, the idea is it can outdo any sort of damage. We can see it very early, comes right down to the most obvious spot to put the shipyard, and I'm a little bit further away from that, but that's going to get attacked soon enough anyway. I don't think one single gunboat can outdo the damage, particularly a supporter. You know, maybe it can if you rush it well enough. Now, so what we've done a bot lab. This might be called a noobish ploy, and indeed it is, but it gets it out of trouble. First off, I don't like begging for a T1 constructor, which this play absolutely needs to get it started, because you need to capture the fields up here, you need to get this geo going, and I'd rather 3, to be honest with you, because I want some construction turrets, which the commander, for whatever reason, can't buy. Easily fended off with that commander giving the build power. You don't need to worry about that at all. This guy's got all this reclaim down here, and we need windmill turrets before this becomes online. Otherwise, as you can see, we're just really low in the energy production at times, despite our best efforts. I mean, we are dealing with 6.2 wind, which is a bit unfortunate. Another thing which I recommend is doing an energy storage, and I'll do that in the next run, I think. So we're going to show 2 games today of how this is all done, and I make some really noobish mistakes. So you've got a little bit of confidence, perhaps, that even if you do this strategy, you're probably going to do a lot better than me, and so you should be able to contest the waters. So this strategy is not only a build order at the start, it's about being in this defensive position and utilising a unit mix which is good in this position. And that's going to actually include some submarines, as we come to see. Not so much as a mixed force early up, and this is just really a bit of a tragedy. So let's fast forward a bit and see how it evolves. At 6 minutes, we're both poking out just to see what the lay of the land is. Exact mirror match up here. Just this supporter coming in to be annoying, and a very brave T1 constructor. I don't know what the supporter's trying to do, just try and solo this base down, maybe trying to do a little bit of scouting. So now, since we've done that geo, I'm putting down the metal converters. Arguably, I could have put down some metal converters by one of my bots before now. The biggest mistake I've done here is not reclaiming that bot lab, as we've zeroed out on metal. I think that definitely needs to be done to be competitive. Otherwise, we're going to carry a slight disadvantage in this naval war. And if we look over to the other side, very similar matchup, but they're having to do what? They're having to invest heavily into this sea economy, which is very exposed. And playing this player, the one thing you can sort of do is try and target these naval radars with supporters and what have you, and just make them a little bit wary of expanding out with their sea resources. Not a huge fan of supporters. Here we go, the light gunboat. but that actually is a use case for them to try and wrestle back some map dominance. You know, the supporters are only 100 metal, and a very cheap investment as opposed to the Armada ones, which are 175 metal. Okay, so we've got the first Duke off. This is a bit of an error for me, putting this destroyer here and not turning that guy around. I've included it all on the same line. So these guys need to be like group 1 and destroyers group 2. And we need to keep them always moving right on the bounds of the enemy group alongside a herring, which I've forgotten about. And I believe the herrings can go in the same group as the destroyer, just for ease's sake. It depends how you are with the micro. I'm going to try it. I'm not going to say it's the best idea in the world ever, but I often forget the herrings and leave them back. As we can see, the biggest gift to the enemy in the world has been what I've just done then. It's slightly mismatched line with destroyer on the right. I'm such a noob, I can't even tell the difference between assault frigate and destroyer. They do look rather similar, you must admit. It's got an absurd rage on the herring. I know they're not supposed to be very good. Honestly, I wonder if at 750 range, 670 line of sight, you know, all those sort of stats, if they're very good harassers instead of destroyers. Just have a herring army. It's something worth considering, but I think chucking in one destroyer, you're going to have to be competitive. As we see, the catch me really lead-footed here. I must have been microing something else. They take down 2 to basically just about one of them dying. Oh, look, the herring took it down. 1 kill to the herring. Not bad. Not bad. There might be a future in just herrings and frigates. Big scary destroyer. Sniping and missing as usual. So it continues to just absolutely destroy. Got 2 kills, the herring. You know what, guys? I think I've underestimated the herring all this time. I think it's rubbish that they're bad. It seems to be the case with the naval units, is all the ones with the bad sort of looking stats are just absolutely tremendous units. Whereas the ones with the good looking stats, yeah, a little bit bad. Now, one thing that is better than anything else, I think, are the Riptide destroyers. In practice, they're another one that doesn't look great on the efficiency stat, but in actual practice, they do a stellar job. I think compared to the Armada ones too, I think it's clear they've got an advantage. Now, if we want to overview our economy at this time, we can see now our energy converters are back. They're not really firing at the moment for whatever reason, but no, they're doing okay. We've actually got a lot of energy converters. I've just built too many, as it turned out, but I'm trying to, get ahead of that geo glut, and I've just built too many. Now, the strategic mistake in this game is I'm not building construction turrets here, and the other mistake I'm doing is putting down these wardens, super expensive at 480 metal, to just try and deter any sort of minor push. But I mean, a couple of light laser towers, may have been enough. I don't know. The other idea, just because they're a bit cheaper, is to put down a couple of offshore torpedo launchers. And I mean, 2 there and 1 there would still be cheaper than the wardens, and I think possibly more effective on, it's going to scare them off, which is the whole idea. And then you can react and build some more fortifications once you see that play made. But of course, if you don't have 1,000 metal, that 1,000 metal goes off the front line here, which could be all the difference to unlocking all these wrecks and pushing them away from all these wrecks. One thing this play does extremely well is super aggressive with the reclaim of the resurrection subs, and whereas I'm a little bit lame with it, what I'm trying to actually do is resurrect the ships, which is not the worst strategy. In fact, it saves you a lot of metal, practically speaking, but you do need to know when to get a sort of contested field and take a sneaky reclaim, as opposed to, I suppose, reclaiming ships at home, which is the most efficient method, or not reclaiming, resurrecting ships at home. Although we can't see a clear advantage yet between the forces, I can assure you it's going to hit soon. Look at the difference in economy. 84. I'm not sure why that's such a stark difference in economy. Well, they've got some T2 early up there, whereas I haven't even built this yet. So maybe that slightly later eco that really catapulting them ahead. They must be reclaiming a wreck at the moment. That must be the reason for it. Let's see if this that can't be 84 continuous. Let's keep an eye on this. No, so they were reclaiming. So it's about 44, 45 compared to about 33. So they've still got the edge. They've definitely got the edge, and we're going to see that bear out. I'm feeling a little bit confident. We can see that reclaim taking place very responsibly on this field. What I quite like about the herrings, they can take a hit. Oh, I'm straight onto that repair. So there you go, master level micro. Herring continues to get pounded. Veteran herring. Oh, wow. What a hero herring. Oh, in the end, I'd argue overkill. That was a value herring right there. Excellent skirmish craft. Of course, not as sturdy as our destroyers. Yep, so we're starting to resurrect responsibly. And they sort of ruined my party by pushing just with this sudden burst of ships they've got, and really catches me off guard. I envelope them, but I should be moving by now because they're able to concentrate on my flank here and concentrate their fire. So I'll finally move them out a bit belatedly. They realise the threat and retreat. I do take down this overly aggressive. That's 200 metal loss there, disappearing into the void. If we look over the other base, they've got 6 construction turrets at the moment, and that's where they're going to get the advantage. Is just never having any pause. As soon as they can suck up some metal, it's just going to be tremendous. That's why they're fighting me so hard. And because their destroyers essentially able to hit me very easily, they just wipe me out. This is why you've always got to keep on moving, is versus these destroyer heavy navies. And they're not worried about losses because they're just hungry for metal. Look, there's one there already. Their whole game is about capturing this field and being as aggressive as possible as they need to be to get it. This is why, in a way, it is a mistake to go out and engage these guys without a clear superiority. We've gifted that 5,000 metal, which will change the remainder of this game. We can also start to see a glug of metal because I don't have any construction turrets. Although I'm trying to make it up with construction ships. Again, I'm just surprised how often these miss. Although this destroyer is actually doing okay. And this is a clear use case of them, is coming back through to these islands. Oh no, it ends up dying. But it's always something where the computer is a little bit, not the computer, where the other opponent is a little bit worried about coming through these islands, getting hit by a sneaky sub or torpedo or just something about it. Okay, I think this is a better use case. There we go. This destroyer here is, I've actually microed it properly, I believe, and it's having some effect. We're trying to always go perpendicular to the enemy or retreat when they advance on us. And right on the end, stop it. Get a new target to take over and screen. I make it the biggest error of my life by not seeing these guys have low health or whatever it is and moving them forward. Whereas I should have pulled back everything there and used my frigates to screen. And I actually could have pushed this back. So one error like that from all that pressure. I mean, my brain just broke, I think, under the pressure of noobishly holding them off. Pink actually gives me a bit of advice by saying, hey, Commander, get some bloody jellyfish up there, and we can see that would have worked nicely, honestly. But I'm too much of a noob. You know, that cliff, this is the defensive powerhouse of having this cliff. We can get it up right up to here. And I could be hitting those right now with jellyfish. Unfortunately, we're just a replay, I can't do that. Yeah, but little did the enemy know I had this arrangement with the pond to knock out some Mausers and provide the support we need. So I complain that I've got no navy. Oh, that's because someone said, you know, slurp away. Well, the only ones slurping are them. Their geo is in sea. I'm not sure if we're talking about the other sea or not. Yeah, I think it must be the other sea. This player is super aggressive. Just wasting their ships on all this artillery. I mean, if I saw this on the minimap, I'd be skedaddling out there, I tell you. Particularly, I mean, it's not that much micro. Now, the one thing this player does do is get out the T2 at this stage, which you'd have to. You know, just the amount of resources on the table, you've conquered their base. Interestingly now, if we look at the other player, their objectives change, okay? Despite all this artillery, they want to have as much effect as possible in the short term by supporting their front line. I personally think this is a mistaken strategy. You want to try and conserve your surface ships to try and repel any sort of, weird amphibious launch, and, sort of have them reserves rather than wasting them on artillery. Even to reclaim them is going to be a better use of your time than trying to support this front line, which is well in hand. But that's just my opinion now. So we can see these guys are coming in to slowly scout me out. I can possibly see them on my radar, so I send this sneaky sub to do away with them. If we go over and look at our opponent, they don't even know they've lost it. I mean, if you just lost them, you'd be thinking, I'm going to send a scout ship or something down there. I'm going to get one of these guys down there. Instead, they're building... Let's get out of this play camp. They are building towards attacking me from this direction. So they're not worried at all. They're not worried at all. They don't know this is here. And this is the power, my friends, of the sneaky sub. And all I need is time. Now, I've banked all this metal just simply because I'm reclaiming also. I might have actually stopped reclaiming. The main strategy I was doing is resurrection. I think I still try and do it just because I've got the glug of metal here, and I've finally wised up to actually building some construction turrets. To be honest with you, in this game, I thought I'd completely lost. Once before, I've had sea ownership, and I've lost to these goddamn submarines. And so I thought, well, why not try the same thing? So I think finally I put out this orca, and I get responded to immediately. Oh no, here it is. Here's our orcas. So we've moved up to try and do a little bit of attack. And nab maybe a resurrector sub, and they finally reacted. I actually don't even know how to micro these. Do they shoot from their backs? No, they don't. So you've always got to be attacking with subs. You can't go back and forth. It's just a pure waste to do that. So this helpful Geo player, he has got the eye on this game. He's like immediately a notification, this is where the problem is. And this guy's a little bit obtuse. I think the green is picking up on that. And he's sending down the army of death, T2 cruisers, to really put me away. So I'm up against it. And I've got this huge glug of metal I just cannot produce out of this base fast enough. Finally, those construction turrets are online. And we start to actually make a dent in all that metal. Yeah, when resurrecting, and we can see the time of it, nothing wrong with 3 of these guys resurrecting, or even 5. Unfortunately, I just think this attack hits us a bit too early to really get our defences up. And T2 cruisers, they're pretty nasty with their depth charges. But that localised superiority, damn. So hiding behind these islands, away from the depth charges, sneaking out and hitting them one at a time, that's where it's at. But when they can localise their forces, it's not so easy for us. This is actually a use case of the death ball, is against the submarine attack like this. So you've got the upper hand, because the one thing these T2 destroyers have is like 8 times the health or something like that than the subs. So they can just take a lot more punishment than your tiny little subs are. The only thing is because they focus down one at a time, is it takes them a little while to get through them all. So this death ball comes through to destroy my resurrected shipyard. I did get one urchin up, but it just dies to these T2 cruisers. They're nasty. Oh, my hero T2 cruiser comes in. My poor construction ships are simply meat for the grinder against this assault. Really, it looks a little bit all over for me. I just can't kill these T2 cruisers. There we go. What a beautiful bombing run. That is absolutely beautiful. That saves the day for me. So again, I've been saved by my friends. Now I can see these arrow storms just coming out of the woodwork, because these guys were over here before, I think, in reaction to the bombing run over here to take out this base, and now they're over here to just sort of, I think, ambush the air player. There's some sort of plan in place there. I will give these guys one thing: they do communicate and work together, which is unusual in team games. So the one good thing about resurrecting, and we're going to see it, is I had a lot of orcas die here. They all come back. And I get this unreal army of orcas, unexpectedly large. So to this guy's mind, oh, I've killed all his subs, or a lot of them. He has none left. He's going to change it up. But I've gone, no, I'm tripling down on subs, bro. And they did work well. And so he's applying pressure right away. At the rally point, this guy's way too aggressive. Sends it forward into my base. And here we see the ambush work. I don't know what the airplay was doing. So there's some bragging going on here. Teach him to F with me. Really, I just should attack this with subs right away. But I'm just building up. I'm a little bit scared, to be honest with you. And I'm getting hit with these submarines. Hardcore. Maybe that's why he's rally pointing them in, just to keep me at bay, while the AA tries to get as many air kills as possible. So he's just throwing these submarines away, which is a bit unbelievable. Yeah, so I've learned my lesson with the construction turrets. I still can't get rid of the glugger metal, but I just don't know T2 shipyard stuff, so I'm leaving that be for the moment. And this is the thing, when you're a noob and you find one thing that works, just roll with it. So we can see here with all this construction and, you know, us bringing back these orcas as well, we're just going to tip the balance and have so many submarines. I think these guys have finally taken, my rival's finally taken me a little bit seriously, but he's still sending these guys too far forward. The reason why you don't want to be needlessly aggressive with your main battle forces, is just to give you time to analyse what's incoming and deal with it appropriately. And as we can see here, they've in fact got a line to my well-timed attack before they've formed up, and just loses these not overly expensive for what they do cruisers. They're only about 1,000 metal, but still 1,000 metal is 1,000 metal, and it's in my backyard now. They have so many subs, so he's starting to get the indication, okay, I'm in trouble. You know, and 42 subs is quite a lot. But it's not like ridiculous. It's 20,000 metal, maybe a slightly more. You know, 20,000 in a navy is, you know, like that's a typical wreck, a typical shipwreckage yard. So rather than having a balanced navy, I guess I am having a bit of a stealth navy here. But it's just got the upper hand because this guy hasn't produced the right counter in large enough numbers, and that was the whole idea behind the mass submarine push. Was even if they do try counter, I'm just going to have mass. These Cortex subs are so good, guys. They're so good in practice. And this is supposed to be sort of their counter, really. Anything with a death charge. But their range isn't there, and localized, I'm able to isolate these guys and pick them off with barely no damage received at this point. It's like them attacking me with 50 T2 cruisers. The numbers just aren't there on their side. They've spent their resources elsewhere somehow. Oh wow, I've actually got 20... Is this me? Yeah, I've got 20 resurrection subs. I went possibly a little bit crazy here, but I thought I'm going to get up all these buccaneers. Yeah, so how quickly did we turn that around, guys? I was dead around the 21-minute mark, and that's all the C player needs. It's 10 minutes to form a counter and wipe you off the map. Even a complete noob like me. That's 1,000 metal per ship AA. Bit too expensive to my mind, but that is so expensive. All dead. Down here my reinforcements are coming up, my resurrected T2. I've got my reclaimers going mad. I've seen this giant field of metal. My goal here is to sort of do some economic damage, I think. But it is a risk, I realise that, against the enemy air. Really, I should have kept these guys back and gone up to T2 and got some T2 air defence myself. But I didn't know, guys, I'm a noob. I've even got some subs over here, so I'm exploring, trying to find if they have any sneaky shipyards and that. I didn't realise they were actually all at the back here, so you guys in this position, this is actually a fantastic hack to just put it right on the extreme edge, like a couple of lines of stuff. Yeah, I just forget to click all the way over there. Now this is the counter. Lunks for you perps. So this guy's getting gifted lunks from Geo like crazy. And this is where I'm going to have trouble. because when another player enters the naval race, especially when they're a direct counter. Now, one thing about the lunks, they're actually terrible. When I went red, I mean, they're 1200 metal almost for some pretty average stats. You know, we're talking like 6,000 health. Their DPS is 130. Is it 136? No, it's 345. It is at a reasonable range, but what is good is our direct counter to submarines, because hovercraft can't be hit by torpedoes. As makes perfect sense. Apart from the submarine captains themselves, who will just fire at these lunkheads. I just thought these lunkheads were like the units of doom that just such outclassed my submarines. But no, they're not doing anything to them. I'm even getting hit by torpedo bombers here. So this is excellent coordination from the other players, bringing this purple player back, like Lazarus, hand him over units, and yeah. I mean, I do catch on my submarines that are goddamn, they're awful against whatever this superhuman lunkhead force is. And to be honest with you, at this stage of the game, my team's not going too well. Interestingly, this Marauder push, I mean, this is an impressive Marauder push. But this is why I should never GG game. I'll show you something. This Death Ball is its own worst enemy. Look at this. Yeah. So Resolvents, fair enough. A bit jaded, said C totally killed us this game. I don't know what happened to Resolvents. Must have got bombed. But definitely C has failed here quickly. But I'm sort of hanging on there. Someone said that was Eco, not C. Yeah, like, honestly, this is not looking good for me, but I did catch on and I made surface ships in the end. This is why I should have pulled back. These T2 cruisers would have been invaluable at the current time. Yeah, as we see, the Resign's coming up, so we're not going to see this all play out. These lunkheads just perform badly as mine Navy. They're very expensive. I mean, this is much more expensive than a T2 cruiser. And destroyers just even very good bombarding. These guys want to get in range much more, of course. They're going to, of course, hunt down my T2 cruiser. Yeah, the splash damage affects more than one. So we're not going to see it play out because we resign at this time. I think I would have fended them off. I think I had the build power to sort of, and the metal to fend them off. So that's that game. The next game is going to show you a much more professional side of this build, where I actually reclaim things and I play somewhat properly. And that's going to be like you guys on your second game. When you're playing through this build, you're going to have a bit better time of it. The first time's always a bit iffy. So let's jump to that right now. So we're in this follow-up game and we see me slightly honing this build. We can see a bit more of an optimized build order already in progress, perhaps. I've just put down this energy storage. And we can see that being well utilized as my commander heads off here. We can also see the continuing energy production happening. Not too many wind turbines because I'm going to manually reclaim this bot lab. Also, something to note is the Geo can be queued up to put down the 10 or so energy converters, or 9. And we can see this bot here, this constructor bot. We can reclaim all this and get maybe straight into energy production as well. And once we get the T2, we want to shift click, right click on the T2 bot so these guys don't have any sort of idle time. This one we're going to manually do that. Then I'm going to come across my big learning from last game was to put down some construction turrets along here, try and get it a little bit north so we can put a T2 shipyard here. We want to try and transition this time. I've done some reading. I saw how cool so many T2 shipyard naval units are, and we want to give that a bit of a role for this game. But it's pretty much exactly the same strategy with some learnings. And the learnings we're going to have here is to put torpedo launchers on these two islands. That's a big one. Also have the 3 urchins, of course, because they're always good sitting sort of behind islands, surprising naval units. Not totally, because they appear on radar and they're pretty obvious as to what they are. In fact, I think I had it better before where I had them maybe slightly more forward, but they're excellent efficiency for what they do. I did make a mistake early on in my build order. Get 3 assault frigates out before you do anything, for exactly this reason. These dolphins are nasty. In the end, I didn't really lose too much metal. You know, it's not the biggest deal in the world. The most important thing is I've got this shipyard up. That's also another thing, is don't maybe put through an automatic build order. Respond to the situation as needed until maybe the 7-minute mark or a bit later. So my learnings from even this game that I didn't do, and we're going to find a bit later, is overproduction of destroyers, I think. You don't need that many of them. And just how good AUKUS submarines are, and I could have done with a few more earlier on perhaps. So here we see, as we've bottomed out in metal, I'm reclaiming this bot lab. The only change here I would have made is to get at least 1 death cavalry, because my construction bot can reclaim, of course, but just a little bit busy. Also at home, I've said it before, but perhaps reclaiming always isn't key, and trying to resurrect might be worth it. But it's just because my navy is that weak, maybe a reclaim is called for, actually, because I can't sort of properly protect it quite yet. Okay, so I come out at 7 minutes to give a riptide wreckage to the enemy, but at least it wasn't a destroyer. These dolphins, I found them weirdly useless when I try to play through with them just before this match. I've never failed a Navy game so quickly. Another great on paper, but in execution, they just absolutely get demolished by the Cortex assault frigates. So considering I'm 0 out of medals, look, I am a little bit late with the reclaim. I've even got a sub just sort of sitting there. It's going to happen, particularly when building these construction turrets. You're going to be very hungry for metal. Over here, I'm not worried about any sort of early rush, particularly with a contested naval game. I can also see here after that push that these guys are trying to block me in with their torpedoes, and that's going to take money. Funnily enough, I think a flanking attack might have actually just about wiped them out here. No, they would have had the forces to sort of hang on. Now, perhaps if we'd foregoed this destroyer, just built these riptides and submarines, been right on to it with the reclaim, I think we might have been able to actually take this if I'd come around the side. Of course, you know, our enemy's not sitting still, but we might have actually taken the advantage there. Interesting. So a timing attack, with this around the 9-minute mark or even just a bit earlier would have gone okay. Well, my plan is the standoff destroyer to slowly dismantle the resources. I have the worst luck with destroyers. Look at this, 1% health left, and this guy gets taken down. I mean, it's probably an even trade in the end. Again, this being needlessly aggressive is actually playing off for this player at this point by targeting my resurrection sub. It's just a little target of opportunity. And because I'm on the defensive, they can sort of bring their destroyer down to super low health before retreating. But they are heavily sacrificing their assault frigates to do this. So although they're tactically winning, strategically it's a draw. So what we did see last time, and I'm a little bit antsy about it now, is having my destroyer blocked by my frigates. I think that's what I'm working out. I've got to go lateral to the enemy. Like, I've got to get a curve going up through here with my screen across here and sort of loop in around them, because I want to draw them out, right? And I want to be bombarding their various bits and pieces. So we're going to do that now, I think, with 2 destroyers. Okay, so I've just got the 1 destroyer at the moment. It's just the worst luck with this urchin here. I'm working out I need to move against destroyer fire. Honestly, my destroyer can't even hit this guy. What is wrong with my destroyer? What is wrong with him? He just missed multiple times. I think it's the radar inaccuracy. I mean, that is 10 out of 10 shots missed. Anyway, they're sort of mucking around, drawing fire, baiting these guys out. with warning shots. That is how it's supposed to go, guys. And my submarines get to work, and they don't even know it. Now, I don't maneuver these guys fast enough, so I get hammered. I withdraw my destroyers a little bit far back, but they'll miss in anyway. I think my destroyers get a few licks in. What is the death? Yeah. See, they're not killing anything. Might as well just build herrings. Poor old Riptide's got beat up, but you know what? These guys have turned the battle. All of them have got a kill, I think. Comes up a bit slower, not on others. Geez, they're doing a better job per metal than my destroyers are. And they only cost half as much. Yeah, so 4 kills with those 5 subs. Destroyers, nothing. They couldn't even kill an urchin. My poor old frigates. Okay, another big blow-up. They've been very aggressive, as is their style. I'm not really moving enough with my frigates. Just a little bit late. And I've learned my lesson with the submarines. And I'm just being super duper aggressive. This has cost them a destroyer here now, actually. We lost 2 of our submarines, but it was worth it to scare off those guys. Come on, you guys. Finally, a destroyer's got a kill. I might revise that down. I think maybe just 2 destroyers are enough. Just to sort of pester the enemy. Leave it to your frigates and submarines to do the heavy lifting. But we do take down those torpedoes nicely in the end. Oh, I've got them all lined up, ready to withdraw. So I'm well aware I'm up against it. I'm not sure why I've gone over there, maybe to discover how much I was enclosed. So we began our attack not really well, because I got sort of fairly sniped as I was forming up. It was within the destroyer's range. That is perhaps a use case of destroyers right there, is put your destroyers in range first and get them moving laterally across to join the fire, and then move these guys, your actual main attack force, down at speed. Look at how much damage these guys are doing. Unreal. Despite being wounded. Missing completely. One barely got away. But you know what? I won the field, which is worth a few casualties. Yeah, well, so we've got a repair constructor here. I've only got 1. I'd recommend maybe 3. It's pretty slow to repair your ships. We need a fast repair, especially when we're on the move and we're not getting the repair in all the time. Likewise, 3 resurrection subs. Only if you're reclaiming, more if you're trying to build ships, basically, or do the resurrection duties. Because we've completely won the field, whenever it's contested field, sure, reclaim. Do a reasonable job doing a sneaky, aggressive reclaim as well. But when it comes down to this, should be resurrecting this to get our efficiency's worth. I'm putting the subs down here because I'm thinking there's going to be some enemy reclaim ship, but they're not there. Yeah, we've easily dismantled this. This was way too far forward. Guys, this here is too far forward. Their torpedo line should have been here. To just try and get some wrecks in at this position, much easier to reclaim for them. Because they were there, they had to come too forward into me all the time, and I've just taken over all those wrecks. In the end, I could attack at my time of choosing when I was very strong, and it just flattened them. So a reason why they're flat also, they've built this 2T shipyard without having any reclaim fields. And so we see the balance of forces with this massive attack. This is why I say herrings should be in their own command group, because no matter your APM, you suddenly have an unexpected sort of fight, basically. You're going to move, your destroyers away. Well, why not the herrings away at the same time? Because then you've got to go, it's destroyers and herrings. Maybe if you're quick enough, you can micro it really well. But if you're a noob, put the herrings and destroyers in the same group. Run them the same lines. And at least then your herrings are sort of... They've got the same range and everything like that. They're looking like a destroyer. So it meets out your destroyer line, if you will. And with your assault frigates, they're just there to draw fire. So you don't want them in the assault frigate group. So we're running them right in the suiciding them right into... They're even getting friendly fire. So this is perfect, right? The way we've threaded our frigates through them. But of course, these orcas are what's changing everything. They're able to get that localized intensive fire and just absolutely dominate. So whatever the surface ship situation looks like, it's actually much worse than that. Here we can see the enemy commander try and suicide himself. Look at those torpedoes. Doesn't even get a chance to suicide himself correctly. And that's a great thing, again, about Orcas. The torpedo fire, with the depth charges, just wouldn't have killed him in time. With the epoxy few destroyers. Even though I've built, in my mind, way too many destroyers, they still don't do enough damage quick enough to underwater craft. Although this death ball of 8 might actually contend with that. Certainly it's stuffing up the base really well. I would say overall is if I just stuck to frigates and submarines, this would have been happening at, you know, like 15 minutes instead of 21 minutes. Okay, so with the sea conquered at the 21-minute mark, we've just got to quickly look at what to do next. And this is something that really wasn't in my mind. I'm a noob, I've gotten the sea, whoop-de-doo, what do I do now? You know, I've tried to patrol submarines everywhere and herrings and what have you. Look, do these things next when studying the situation, because this is what I didn't do. Firstly, what you should do with this T2 shipyard, make a T2 construction sub, go around and get these metal extractors and build T2 on it. At the same time, build like 10 T1 constructors, clear whatever you've got in this list, build 10 T1 constructors, support the T2 sub, and also with those T1 constructors, like 5 of them, go off and build energy, you know, at the edge of the map or whatever. You've got so much space. Don't go into fusions or anything like that. This should be a T2 geo. Don't build fusions, build tidal generators and energy converters in the sea. What you want to do after that is start working on your flagship, the Black Hydra. Only pop out one. One is all you need. Now, arguably, as soon as I defeated this base with an element of surprise, I should have immediately gone up and bombed this geo. That would have taken off this whole base, pretty much, I think. They might have been lucky to keep the windmills, basically. Didn't do that, suffered the consequence. This base up here, a bit hard to target and what have you. I do not know for super sure whether destroyers can target it, but I think they can. So give it a go, and you might as well hit these as well. But no, they'll probably get taken out by the T2 geo explosion. Try and conserve your forces. I mean, you might help the front line if it's critical, but as I found out, it's good to conserve your forces. Hell, even reclaim your surface ships. But I did find there was, like, if you get the hunk craft again, or whatever they're called, they will die so badly to your navy that it is sort of worth it in a way to have them in reserve, just to counter that. With all the surface ships that I've got, it can be really good to support, and the destroyers you have, 100%. Use them to sort of barrage their front line a little bit after you take out their eco. Send them back though, reclaim their asses. Everything else, reclaim it, apart from the subs. Put the subs up through here, because the enemy can't really see them, and you don't want them doing a sneaky navy run yet. So do that. And what they will try 100% is to put amphibious through. They'll go crazy. We've got to put amphibious through the sea, despite the fact you've got visibility on it all. Go through and build radar sonars. Or, you know what even might be a better idea? After you do the 10 constructors, get like 10 different herrings and put them on a really convoluted patrol path through here, just to keep that sort of light AA radar sonar mix. So you don't mix anything. If you just put a radar here and it gets bombed, you sort of don't notice it, and that's when this would actually happen to us. They got through marauders or shivers through here and just done so much damage. So despite the fact I knew of a group and was attacking them, so they sort of distracted me. So get through the patrol craft and just see heaps of herring patrol craft. They're super cheap, and it's good because it also denies this area to air in pragmatic sense. So you've got your flagship right, you've got your econ, you've got your patrols. Next, what you want to do is think about landing some troops and how to utilize your flagship, because your flagship is going to be lacking intel onto what to actually hit. So there's 2 factories I would advise, and I wouldn't put it like down here or anything crazy, which is just super, it can be taken down by a variety of means. No, maybe even set it all the way back up here. Something like that. Like, it doesn't take you that much longer. Put in a naval aeroplane factory to just produce the odd scout to come through and identify targets for your flagship. and put down a amphibious vehicle lab to produce, I think, maybe groups of 5 to 10 Scorchers. Because you're going to have a bit of scouting information, you're going to see what might be a good path to take. If not the Scorchers, to get them through the heavier vehicles just to last long enough and put up with a little bit of resistance. And you might be able to get through here. As you can see, this is just clear runnings. So if you can hit them fast enough, you might be able to take out this air and even extend onto the eco just by hitting these like advanced energy converters and that. And lastly, I'm not too sure if there's an amphibious AA, but that might be good to tie in with some of your units as well to take off some of their air depending on where it is. So that's my tips to you guys. You can, of course, go an experimental lab with a T2 ship, build an experimental lab and push out Marauders. They're a lot more effective. See how you go with your micro and how you go with your resources. If you've got the Marauder, do that instead of the amphibious vehicle factory. But sometimes timing does matter, because these guys are going to wake up to the fact that you're an amphibious threat and build it. It might take them 5 minutes, so they're going to build it, but your vehicles might just get in below that timing and be able to travel through and put the pressure on and change the whole game as early as possible. So up to you guys, but as we saw from the last game, building that experimental lab too quickly and too aggressively can also end in disaster. Right, thanks very much for watching my video. Hopefully you picked up a few tips and tricks and found out that Navy isn't actually that hard if you just know what to do. But that's what I did find when I went on the Reddit forums, when I asked for advice in the game. A lot of people were telling me like, oh, just get the reclaim fields, just make sure you reclaim. The other one was move your ships properly. And I can understand why they're two really big tips, but it doesn't really explain the timings, what you need to do, what sort of ship compositions you need to have. Hopefully this gives this to your guys. The last tip I would say here is when a hostile island is taken over, send your commander there. That's the time to send them to have the heft to take over this island. I'm not sure how you'd actually get T2 there other than getting a transport, asking for a transport, and then getting the T2 metal extractors. That's why I sort of wasn't too worried about it. Oh, what have they got here? Oh, it's an advanced metal constructor from Air, so that's why Air has it. So yeah, they can be a little bit more effort than is, worth it, these islands. So because it's a noob-friendly guide, I've steered away from them. One thing you can do is put an early herring, put it somewhere over here. When they bring in their transport plane, if this happens, it will get shot down and blow up their commander. And at least you can see at that time that, oh, the island's taken over. So that's just a little thing that I've seen. I've had it actually happen to me, a nasty trick. These sort of tips and tricks should gird you well in contesting the sea. Thanks very much, and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos, and see you next time.